Hey everyone, I'm Aidan Walls, and today we're going to talk about something a little different, why I bought the RG350M. So if you're new to my channel, you're going to be asking me, what on earth is the RG350M? It's a retro gaming console. It's a big craze. It started a couple of years back. Chinese companies started making these cheap devices that could emulate old games. So emulation's been around for a while. I did it on my PC a while back. You know, when you think of an old game that you used to play in the olden days, you can emulate it with ROMs. And so somebody clever in China thought, why don't we bring out a handheld console that can run those emulators? And so you get these Linux-based or Linux-based operating systems that can run your ROMs, and now recently Android-based consoles, so it can run old games like your Nintendo, your Super Nintendo, your PS1, all that kind of stuff, Game Boy Advance, all that stuff is available on these devices. And so anyway, if you are a person who's into these sort of things, you'll be asking, why on earth did you buy the RG350M? That thing is old. When I bought it, it was getting old. And then there were a whole lot of new consoles that came out end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And so now this thing is really getting old, but there is still a reason to buy this, and I'm going to get into that now. So let's get into a few of the topics why you would buy a retro gaming console. Firstly, it's the nostalgia. You know, you want to play games from your childhood, and I think that's where my argument starts for the RG350M, and why I have a bit of an argument for all these, you know, like the AYN Odin, those sort of consoles that are high-powered consoles, very affordable if you compare it to something like the Nintendo Switch. The Odin Lite is 3,000 Rand in South Africa, and in the Nintendo Switch Lite, I think, is 5,000 Rand in South Africa. So there's a big difference, and you can play a lot more games on those consoles. But if you're talking about retro gaming, to me, retro gaming ends at sort of Nintendo 64, the Sega Saturn. This can't emulate that far into the future or in the past, but it can emulate up to PS1 quite comfortably. So for me, that's kind of the reason you would get a handheld emulator, is to play those games, your Nintendos, your Super Nintendos, and then Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy, you know, the monochrome Game Boy games. For me, that is the reason to get a retro gaming handheld console. You can argue with me in the comments, but I feel like anything above that is just extra. And so I do think this industry is a little bit tricky, because I don't know what these guys like Anbernic, the people that made the RG350, are going to do, because I don't see any reason. For instance, Anbernic's new RG552, I just don't see the point of it. It's a big touchscreen retro gaming handheld that still can't quite emulate the big games. So what is the point of a device like that? And that's where I think the AYN Odin, sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here a little bit, but that's why the AYN Odin is going to be the next big thing in terms of if you want to play bigger, more fancy games. But if you want something that just can play your Nintendos, the old games from the olden days, devices like this still have a reason to exist. And I think, you know, there's a couple of devices I'm going to recommend in the end, but that is my little tip why I think the RG350M is still a relevant purchase in 2021. So if you can get your hands on one of these, great. I'm going to give you some tips on how to get it up and running perfectly. But if you are in the market and you particularly like the one that I'm busy showing you right now, I would say go for the RG351MP. It's essentially them putting to rest this, they call it the R3352 or something processor. I'll put the number on the screen now. But it's putting to rest that processor, making the perfect ultimate device for that processor. So the RG351MP is a bit more powerful than the 350M, and it has a few more features, but essentially it's the same thing, just newer. Okay, so I got to my answer to my initial question, why I bought the RG350M. I got to my answer quite quickly. So now what I'm going to get into is how to set this device up for the ultimate retro gaming experience. And it's actually really simple. Go over to Retrogaming for his guide on this, but essentially install the Atom image. I'll put a link to the GitHub page for the Atom image. You flash the Atom image onto your internal SD card. I would say take your stock SD, put it somewhere, buy a nice high quality SD card, and use that for your internal SD card and flash the Atom image onto that. Essentially what the Atom image is I was busy building this before the Atom image came out. So essentially it's simple menu as a front end, and there's a lovely new theme that's come out for simple menu. Check it out, it really is nice. It's the BetaMax theme. It's just like the cherry on the cake. This RG350M is just perfect now with that theme, and everything is just lovely. So you've got your simple menu as your front end. You've got RetroArch as the backbone for all your emulation. RetroArch is a very well established multi-emulator platform that runs all sorts of games. There's a few limitations, but essentially RetroArch is just great. And then underneath that you've got the OpenDingX Beta, which is the Linux kernel that the whole thing runs on. So, I mean, if all that was complete garbage to you, just load the Atom image. You'll thank me later. It'll turn your RG350M, your 300X, your 2ATV, there's a couple of other devices, and it'll turn it into such a lovely user-friendly device. Because honestly, the OpenDingX that this ships with is okay, but it's really not user-friendly. So if you're buying this as a gift for someone, load that Atom image on for them, and it's going to be a much nicer experience for them. So that's essentially that. If you have bought one of those other devices that I mentioned, the 2ATV or the 300X or a 350M or a 350P, whatever it may be, sorry about the rhyming, load the Atom image on and you'll be good to go. Now, my recommendation. So essentially, I know this is the only video I've made about retro gaming, but I like to make these videos when I've been shopping for a device, because I really go deep into my research. You know, compared to the normal people out there, I'm very weird when it comes to this, and I just over-research the things. That's why I ended up with the RG350M, because I found a little niche that perfectly suited me, which might not suit you, but I'm going to recommend the devices that I think are the ultimate retro gaming devices. Taking into mind that I'm saying that I think the bigger devices are just for a whole different market. I would love to have a bigger device, but at the end of the day, it's not my scene. I'm not into the AY and Odin. It's too expensive. It's too high powered. I don't want to play those games. I want to play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance. I even want to play the monochrome Game Boy. I like that experience. That is what I'm looking for in one of these devices. So bear that in mind when I make these recommendations. The first and top of my list is the RG351MP. That is, to me, the ultimate device. I wish I'd waited a little bit longer and had that instead of this, but essentially it's very much the same thing. And once you load the Atom image onto here, you're getting that same user experience that you're getting on the 351MP. It's got a Wi-Fi dongle that comes with it. I'm still not 100% sure how you benefit from Wi-Fi on the OpenDingX platform, but it's there. And so the 351MP is just the ultimate. It's a metal case and all that sort of thing. Now, you know, Retrogaming, which is my favorite YouTuber for this, he's just my go-to YouTuber. I check out all his stuff to learn a little bit more about retro gaming. He likes a plastic device, and a lot of people do, because, you know, when you're going for a retro gaming console, this is that premium feel. It doesn't feel retro at all. It feels like a modern device with a modern screen playing old games. The Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is kind of externally more retro. It's a beautiful plastic, colorful device, but more powerful than a lot of the things coming out, and it's $99 before shipping. And so you're getting an Android device with a touch screen, a whole lot of emulators on it. It can do up Nintendo 64, I saw it do Sega Saturn, I think it can even do Dreamcast, so it does some pretty high level emulation. So if you want something a bit more powerful, a plastic device, something different. So it really is just the companion to this, the sort of alter ego to the RG351MP is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. So that is my other recommendation. And then the other thing is, I nearly bought a vertical device. Vertical devices, you know, kind of bring that nostalgia of the original Game Boy. And so you've got your 351V, which is also more powerful than the 350M. So the 351V has got a lovely screen. It's got the vertical thing. It's got the nice trigger buttons on it. So a lovely vertical device. And if you want to go more affordable, the 280V and the MiU Mini, which has just come out. Those are two lovely devices, more affordable devices, which I would definitely go for. Had I not bought this, I probably would have bought the 280V because it's just a very compact thing that has the same, I think the same processor as this. So it does the same sort of emulation. You can load Anim Image onto it and it goes for about $65 on Banggood. So those are my recommendations. I hope this video was helpful to you if you are getting into retro gaming. If you're a videographer and you got onto my video, I use this while I'm editing. When I'm on a big project, when I'm waiting for things to load, I'll play a little bit, save the game and move on. It's just a great way to keep my mind occupied. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it got you into retro gaming as you know, I've enjoyed it. I hope you will enjoy it. And I hope you will subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.
Bye.